Hey there, Internet. My name's Luxander, and my ability to function as an adult human person this summer has been a little bit limited. So, as a result of that, being that I have like 3 projects on deck that I'm having a very difficult time getting myself to work on, we're going for something kind of low energy, low pressure, very not a big deal. I just want to introduce you to the plants that I've been taking care of in order, I guess, of which ones I got first, and tell you a little bit about them, because this is what I've been doing with a lot of my time. Been taking care of my plants. I found an app that's really helpful, which I will not be shilling for unless, So, but I've kind of gotten organized with learning what all my different plants need from me, and I think this is a really soothing hobby, and it's not crazy expensive if you buy plants off of the rehab shelf, basically. The plants come in when they're brand new. It's like $13 or whatever when you're at the grocery store, like in the florist department. And then, like, once they've been there for 3 weeks, they're not really doing very well because the employees don't take care of them very well or whatever. And then you can just, like, buy them for $3 or whatever. And they are usually not in good health, so it does require some extra work to get them back to a point of being healthy. So all that also to say that my plants are not all in great condition, partially because my orchid, for example, I saved from Walmart, where it was just under the scorching sun, and it was like a $2.50 orchid that I got, and I'm just trying to get it back to a place where it's healthy. But a lot of the leaves are burned because orchids do not like direct sunlight. They tend to grow on trees, so they're in the shade most of the time. That's the kind of thing that you can expect to learn in this goddamn video. Without further ado, this is the plant that I have had the longest. This is an aloe vera plant that I got. It's actually like 2 different ones that I got clippings off of my sister's plant. And then this planter I 3D printed. I don't design anything when I 3D print. I just go find designs that people have already put together, and then I download the files, and I have my printer calibrated so that I will get good results. So I 3D printed this like low poly. I think I printed like 3 different ones that were kind of similar to this all at the same time, including one that's a Bulbasaur, but I don't have anything planted in that right now, so I'm not going to show you. But yeah, aloe vera, this one I've had the longest because they are resistant to my neglect when I was neglecting my plants a lot. And so that's why this one is still so small and why it's got these discolorations on the leaves, because I overwatered it and it's trying to recover from that. But it's doing well. It's got all these green parts, and it's good. I like this one. Again, it can tolerate my neglect. This is the plant that I've had next to longest. This is a bottle cactus, or dancing bones is another name for it. I'm pretty sure, at least. It's interesting because plants are actually kind of hard to specifically identify, especially ones that don't have flowers, because the flowers can be a really big differentiating factor. Like, my partner has a terrarium, and he's got all these leafy plants in there that we're like, are these bromeliads? Like, I can't actually tell what they are because they don't have flowers. And I have a couple of apps that I use for plant identification, but if you just go like, oh, here's the leaf of this plant, and I have no other identifying features, it's really hard to pinpoint. So for a while, I thought this was a Ripsalis, but it's actually a totally different species. I got a different app for identifying plants, and it seemed like it knew better what it was. I think the problem is that the app that I'm using right now is a paid app, and it has some, I think, actual professional feedback on plant identification, as opposed to the app that I had previously been using when I thought this was a Ripsalis, which I think relies heavily on self-reporting from people. So, if I were to look something up and 92% of the time people think that this is this common plant, it might be one of the less common varieties, and I'm not even sure that I can trust that all the photos listed under certain types are actually that type, because people can upload their photos and they may be misidentifying things. So it's nice to have an app that has a little bit more professional whatever. But again, I'm paying for that service, and that's part of why I don't want to shill, because the free version of the app is useful, but the paid version is where I'm getting a lot of info from, and I'm not going to tell you, oh, you really have to get an app that you pay for. You can definitely use other forms of identification and look up a bunch of different websites and cultivate your own information if you would like to do. That's what I was doing before. I had spreadsheets upon spreadsheets about all my plant care. Anyway, I just like this guy. You can kind of see it's got a lot of new growth, like all these little tiny things. Those are all new growth, which is nice because this guy also is only alive because it tolerates my neglect. I bought a planter that had like 10 different succulents in it, and this is the only one that survived. I know a lot more now, also, about how to take care of them and not let them die. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that this is the next set of plants that I got. There were 3. I killed one of them because I drowned it. I had watered the plants and then not moved them from where they were when it rained, and they got overwatered and it root rotted, and it's very unfortunate. But this one right over here is Echeveria elegans, or Mexican Snowball, and it's doing so well. I think it might be a little bit leggy. Like, leggy means that the plant is just like weird proportions to what is the most aesthetically pleasing version of the plant, I think. And I mean, it was in really low light for a while, so it kind of grew up taller a little bit than I think it meant to. Its flowers are beautiful. It's I'm gonna hit the microphone a lot in this video. It's kind of hard to see these because they bounce around so much, but I'll try to like bring it close to you and hold them still. Like, they have all these like really incredibly beautiful pink blooms that like they open to orange in the throat, and it's just fucking gorgeous. Like, I love them so much. And yeah, I keep hitting the microphone thing. Anyway, so this is a pretty one, and I think that both of these are flower stalks. Like, I think it's trying to put up more flower stalks, which is gonna be nice. And then this one is called String of Turtles. Or no, this is not String of Turtles. This is String of Buttons, because it has like those little bits, those little buttons, and if the buttons fall off, it can clone itself off of them. That's true with most succulents. If they drop a leaf in particular, if they drop a leaf that is like still very saturated with water and everything, they can just clone themselves. Like, it'll just start putting out roots and then pop up a little clone of the mother plant. And obviously there's like a lack of genetic diversity if you are only cloning your plants, which is why you may do something like pollinate your flowers, perhaps, with Q-tips or whatever, if they're not naturally being pollinated. And I don't think I've actually tried to pull off any of these like dried flowers to see if there are seeds in there, but that is something you can totally do also. These are good because they're drought resistant, but that's not good if you leave them out in the rain, so keep that in mind. Next, I rescued a couple of plants off of my sister's deck. She had bought like some small plants that she had meant to put out in her garden or something, I don't know, and she just didn't end up doing it. So this one, I don't even know why I bother with this. This is a bell pepper plant, but when I got it, the stalk was like totally dry, so I like cut it down, and because it had these little leaves. But I swear to God, I've had this thing for like 2 or 3 months, and it's got like some new leaves on there, especially because I've been fertilizing it, feeding it, like getting on a schedule with those things. So it's got more leaves, but I don't actually know if this thing is ever going to grow well enough to fruit. And I kind of feel like throwing it in the compost, but I have a hard time giving up on things. I keep like buying these plants off of the rehab shelf and just being like, if I just give you what you need and love you, then everything will be okay and you'll flourish and thrive. And I am starting to wonder if this is not actually a tragic character flaw of mine. It's just a fun thing. Anyway, so I don't know why I'm bothering with this, but I am. And I got a second plant at the same time. This one is actually doing incredibly well. This is a jalapeno plant. Interestingly, apparently like all peppers are the same species. Like, they're not different to each other enough to be different species. They're all, can't remember the exact Latin name, but they're all capsicum something. Like, the bell pepper and this plant are technically the same species, which is why they'll crossbreed. If you ever plant hot peppers near your sweet peppers, they will cross-pollinate, and your spicy peppers will be less spicy, and your sweet peppers will be a little bit more spicy than they should be. So that's something to keep in mind. But this guy is doing so well. Apparently, jalapeno plants are super tenacious, which is weird, because I've heard that bell pepper plants are very finicky, so it's just strange that they're different like that. But it's cool because it has 3 different peppers on there right now that are like in the process of maturing, and I actually can see that it's got several different other areas where it's going to start fruiting as well, which is interesting because I did just repot this one and like took out some of the root system but it's doing really well, and I'm pleased with it. And I have harvested fruit off of it already. I didn't wait long enough, so they weren't like spicy, but they tasted exactly like what you would expect a green bell pepper to taste like, which was very weird. So the next plant that I acquired is this Gerbera Daisy. This one, it was not like not doing well, but it was like the last one left at the store, so I got it for like $2.50, I think. I have repotted it. It's always good to repot your plants very shortly after you buy them, because sometimes they'll be in the wrong soil, and they will often be root bound and like not have enough room. So I did put this one in a bigger pot so that it would have a little bit more room. And it had 2 flowers when I got it, but these 2 flowers are totally brand new. They are absolutely brand new. And I love this flower because it's really easy to take care of, but it's also like incredibly dramatic. Like, if it is dry, she will quite literally, like, her flowers will like wilt over and all the leaves will like go down, and she just looks so pitiful. And then you give her some water, and like 3 hours later she's like, hello, I'm up, everything's fine. That's not happening as often now because the schedule in the app has me watering it before she does that, but it is incredibly hilarious, and I just think it's really cute. And I kind of felt like in the past I've been like, yeah, I don't really like yellow. Like, yellow is my least favorite color, and I do think in most applications it is, like, yellow is my least favorite color. But then y'all know, like, I changed the picture for this channel, and it's a picture of me wearing a flower crown of dandelions. And ever since that, like, that was for Beltane earlier this year, the pagan holiday in May, and I just was like, wow, I feel really cute, and I really like these, and I think that I like yellow flowers. Like, I think I just like all color flowers, and these just happen to be really beautiful, and they come up very easily, and they don't last crazy long, but the plant produces flowers frequently. Like, when these come off, it might start to perk up more. Maybe not, because it's getting toward the end of the season, and I'm not actually sure when this guy is supposed to bloom, but man. And I also usually don't like really leafy plants, but I like this guy a lot. I mean, like, obviously, I've shown you multiple succulents. I tend to really like succulents the best, and I didn't even know that succulents could flower in the way that my Echeveria does, but it's beautiful, and they make me really happy. Honestly, most mornings it's one of the first things I do is go outside to just sit with and take care of my plants and do all the little things that they need me to do for them. Next is the orchid that I told you about before. It really, like, looks really droopy right now. I'm trying to figure out, like, I think that it's about to drop this leaf maybe or something. I 3D printed this pot, so like I said, orchids tend to grow sometimes on rocks, but a lot of the time they grow like on the sides and branches of trees. So their roots, they're called epiphytic, I'm not sure, but the point of that is that, like, their roots are different to normal plants. Like, normal plants, their roots go into dirt, and they absorb all the water and nutrients that they need through that root system. For epiphytic plants, the root is oftentimes, like, more for support and stability, like more for grabbing on to a surrounding, and then they kind of, still through their roots, they more ambiently collect water and nutrients from the surroundings. So you cannot put an orchid in regular soil. It will drown, like, it'll suffocate and drown the roots because they can't breathe. Like, they really need a lot of air. So that's why I printed this to give it a lot of breathing room, but I think it's a little too dry, and it's also fucking impossible to get the stupid plant to be upright. Like, I have this thing in here, not because the flowers are sprouting right now. It was dropping its blooms when I rescued it from Walmart, but yeah, it's impossible to get it to stay upright. So I think what I'm going to do with this guy is probably use the same pot for now, at least. I can't make it bigger because it's already, sometimes the stuff will come out, like, this is bark, this is tree bark for the orchid, and sometimes the pieces will, like, fall out the sides of these holes, so I can't, like, upscale this really and have it still be functional. I might have to print a different one if I want to upsize the pot that this is in. But what I am going to do is, I went to the store earlier to get some other plant stuff, and I got some sphagnum moss. I'm pretty sure my partner has some sphagnum moss, but I'm not going to go looking for it. So I just bought a bag, and what I'm going to do is, like, I'll put bark in the bottom, and then I'll do a layer of sphagnum moss, and then a layer of bark, and then a layer of sphagnum moss, and that'll help it retain a little bit of moisture, and also hopefully like the sphagnum moss will sort of wrap around the root system a little bit better so that it'll stay goddamn upright. Like, it's infuriating, and I don't even know if this is an attainable goal for an orchid. Frankly, I don't know if having an orchid be, like, upright and sturdy in its pot is a thing that you can hope for in the world, but, you know, we'll see. But yeah, so you can see, obviously, the leaves are quite burned. However, this leaf in the middle is a totally new leaf since I have been taking care of it, so obviously, I'm doing pretty okay. I had to go in and cut off some of the roots. There's a YouTube channel that my mother-in-law suggested to me for teaching me how to take care of orchids, so I've been watching some videos from that. Miss Orchid Girl, I think, is the channel if you're at all interested in, like, how to care for orchids. So, I've just been following her instructions, and it's been going good so far. It's got some new roots that it's starting to put out, and her blooms are, like, purple and white, so I'm really excited for next year. Presumably next year, I think, is when she's going to be healthy enough to give me some more. But yeah, I think that, like, her leaves are a little bit too dry right now, and we'll see about repotting. I'm probably going to repot her today if I have time. These next two I acquired the same day from a local plant place, like a local nursery or whatever. This one is called a polka dot plant, and it's like, specifically it's called Splash whatever, so, I mean, it's just gorgeous. It's gorgeous. This thing is not off the rehab shelf. I paid like $4 and it came in a pot that was like this big compared to this. So when I repotted it recently, it really fanned out and is like starting to breathe a lot better. But like, I just think that she's gorgeous. Like, this pink color, it's not as vibrant as it had been, so I'm not sure what exactly it is that I'm doing that she's not like as pink as she was. But there's a ton of little new leaves on there. You can kind of see toward the front. There's a lot of little guys, and it's just really adorable, and I'm curious to see how big this one will get. I really like terracotta pots, also. Plastic pots don't allow the soil to breathe, and sometimes this can mean that your plant, like, retains water for too long, which is probably part of why I killed the one that came with my Echeveria and string of buttons. But yeah, so you can, like, this is like a dark color. You can see that I just watered it yesterday, and it's still got a lot of moisture in there. The terracotta will wick some of the moisture out, in addition to, like, showing you that the soil is wet. So that's pretty cool. At the same time that I got this one, I got this one, which is Royal Purple Plant, and this one was off of the rehab shelf. It was very leggy. Like, it was, like, really long, and then there wasn't any leaves happening in the middle. But you can kind of see now that here there you can see, along the stem, we've got all these little guys kind of starting to pop up, and that's really exciting. And another nice thing is when I got her, you can see, like, it has purple on the leaves. Like, she really didn't have much purple, so it's really been since repotting her in the correct soil, making sure she's getting the right amount of sunlight, and like, obviously, like, there's little brown pieces of leaf that are, like, unhealthy still. I'm not pulling those leaves off. I've been, like, trying to trim back some of the actual brown parts, but I'm not cutting those leaves off because I want it to still be able to photosynthesize with the healthy parts of that leaf. And then, of course, once she fills out, like, once all these little guys once all these little guys along the stem start to grow and flourish out, then I'll have a little bit more license to just trim off these sort of dead-looking ones. But yeah, it's doing so well. And, like, this is what I mean. You can see this is, like, a darker color, the terracotta at the bottom, which is telling me that there's still some moisture. And then it's, like, these are the parts where it's dry, and you can tell that she'll need to be watered soon. That is it for, like, the plants that are technically mine and then, like, are mostly in their own pots, and they're, like, more or less mature, and I'm pretty confident about their survival. So what I said about succulents before, they will absolutely just drop leaves, and then you can pick them up and get them to clone themselves. So whenever I'm looking at succulent displays, when I'm at the store, I notice sometimes that there are just loose leaves around, like the succulent plant leaves, and I'll just pick them up off the ground or from in between the pots, and see if I can get those plants to kind of grow. So I'm going to show you those now. I actually have 4 small pots dedicated to this purpose, and I don't know how well I'm going to be able to show you the stuff. But, okay, so also sometimes you'll find that a leaf has dropped into the soil and has already started to root, or even has already started to grow a little plant, those are really exciting to find. So this is like a collection of different ones that I've picked up over the course of the summer. So you can see this big one I've had for a while, and it's growing, and it's kind of like, I think that this guy deserves his own pot now because he's having a hard time keeping himself upright. Like, it's big enough that it's having a hard time keeping itself upright. And then there's just a couple other little ones in there. You can see. I'm trying to see if I can get those to root out and grow. And then here's another one where I had found one that had already started to perk up a little bit. This leaf is from the plant that I killed, and I'm trying to see if I can get it to root out and maybe clone one, because all the rest of the leaves have died by now. Yeah. And then, like, I don't even know what this is. I found, like, some random little stuff near the succulents and was like, I wonder what that might grow into if I manage to get it to root out. So that's 2 of my succulent leavings experiment boxes. I don't know. And then here's the other 2. I'm really not sure how much to hope for with any of these. So, like, this one is kind of cool because, like, can you see this little purple guy right in the front there? I'm really excited to see if I can get this purple guy to live, because that's a fantastic color. I love that color, and it's beautiful. I'm not sure what this red guy is going to do. So sometimes I'll pick up a leaf like this one that doesn't have any roots, and I'll just see if it'll start to root out. And they usually come out, like, they start coming out kind of pink a lot of the time. I also bought some rooting hormone recently, and I tried to put that on a couple of them, but I don't actually know if rooting hormone works. If the kind I got works that way. I think it might be more for cuttings. So here's just another little collection of little guys. I'm really curious to see if this guy will perk up, because that color is really cool. And I guess, like, here's another couple of leaves from that plant that I killed. I don't really think they're gonna do anything. We'll see. Do you have some roots on there? No, it's just getting dry. I don't have crazy high hopes because I root rotted that plant to death, but yeah, we'll see if any of these little guys perk up into anything and get big enough to need their own space. There's only 3 left, and we are now in the territory of, these are plants that are not technically mine, but I have taken charge of because I have the resources and the knowledge and the time to be doing this, basically, like, keeping some of my partner's plants alive. So this guy is, like, they're my partner's plants. Like, technically, we're both taking care of them. Whatever, you know what I mean? I'm not saying partner, like, Anyway, this is a mimosa plant, a mimosa tree, actually, and I'm taking care of this one for my partner. I just recently repotted it, and this one's really interesting because I think it, like, closes up at night. Like, last night when I brought it in, so all my plants are inside right now because it rained last night, and it's gonna rain tonight, and it's gonna rain more tomorrow, and I don't want them to drown. I'm a control freak. I have to know exactly how much water is going into them, basically. But yeah, so when I brought this one in last night, it was, like, kind of, like, closed up, and there are some plants that are like this that are, they're called sensitive plants, where if you touch them, they'll close, but I don't think this one is quite that sensitive. So, got that little mimosa guy. And then these last 2 are actually pretty cool because I made these hangers for them. So, I have been doing a lot of crochet recently. You can also do this kind of thing in macrame. I just don't, because I crochet. I do all kinds of different stuff, but I figured out that I could make hanging planters, and I was like, I've become too powerful. Like, I didn't realize that I could make practical stuff in addition to just, like, clothes and little things, like little flowers and stuff that I really enjoy doing. But anyway, so I made these hangers, and I like them. I need to make them smaller because these plants that are hanging are both string plants, and that's like my string of buttons will potentially, like, grow tall until it starts to drift over, and that's kind of what these do, except they don't really get tall. They, like, you can kind of see, like, this guy has, like, a little tiny bit of, like, a stalk. Is there a leaf in the way? I don't know. There's a tiny bit of a stalk, and then it just like, goes off the edge there. So I am in the process of making different hangers that'll, you know, stop below the line here, and then they won't pull up over the edge and get in the way of the plants cascading down. But so this one is string of hearts, obviously because the little heart-shaped leaves, and it's got little tiny new growths that you probably can't see, especially if it's green in front of green. There's little tiny guys over here that I'm really excited about. Again, these are not really, like, my plants, but I am taking care of them. This guy's also not doing so well because initially it was in a place where the cats could get to it, and then we moved it, out of this room where it was not getting enough light, and I only just brought it back in here because I made these hangers. So it's kind of starting to recover a little bit from getting chewed on and not getting enough light because they are succulents and they basically need like full sun. And I will save this one for last because it's so darn cute. There was, again, I made this hanger. I need to make a new one. I wanted them to match. You can see they came in the same little things. So this one is called String of Turtles, and it is just like an incredibly adorable plant. I might actually go ahead and take it out of here so that I can show you a little bit more easily. Yeah, so this guy is doing super well and absolutely adores what I've been doing to take care of it, apparently, because it's got a lot of little tiny baby leaves. Like, you can really see over here, there's a lot of little ones. And the interesting thing about String of Turtles is that sometimes, like, a lot of them are green, you know, like light green, like this, but then sometimes they'll just be really dark green. And you can see some of these guys over here are like a little bit darker. I don't actually know if you can tell kind of the difference between these like little dark ones and these lighter color big ones. But these are just so darn adorable. And my partner did split this one into 2 parts, so he has one of them in one of his terrariums, and this one I have to like actually mist because it's not being kept in a humid environment. But yeah, I'm excited to switch this into a hanger that will be a little bit more appropriate, because as it is right now, the little strings kind of get in the way of it hanging over. So, and there you have it. That's all my plants. I think, yeah, as far as my personal plants that are like mostly in their own containers, I have 10, and then with the ones that I'm taking care of for my partner, there are 13, plus all those little tiny baby ones that I am not counting in that count because they're not like, I'm not sure that those are going to actually root down fully and survive. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. It's super calming, and it's really nice to surround yourself with like living things that are not incredibly demanding. Like, obviously I still love my cats. They require a little bit more in-depth attention than just like a once a day giving them what they need and then kind of leaving them alone to deal with themselves for the rest of the time. Interesting fact, you are supposed to fertilize your plants like throughout the growing season. They don't just need water and sunlight. You actually do have to provide them with nutrients in their soil. That's also why you're meant to replant your plants every couple years or whatever. Anyway, I really appreciate you all watching. Hope that you enjoyed. Feel free to do the things where you like and subscribe, and PayPal and Patreon if you feel like it. And I hope that you have an okay day. Bye. Thank you as always to my beautiful patrons for your support and patience over the last couple months. I especially want to shout out TB Skyen, Sean. This is not a joke. The next name on the list is Bean. Sean and then Bean separately. Amanda B. R. Halverson. Aldo Espinoza Zuniga. Sarah A. Wellington Marcus. Athiette. Michelle Winter. Frozen Summers. Suzanne Maynard. Mayor Treebeard. Elizabeth Bartell. And Mr. Atheist.